Hello everyone, I'm Syafiq and this is my narrative review presentation. So the title is The Impact of Using Lower Limb Exoskeleton on Gait Performance Among Stroke Survivors. Every year, about 1.5 million people are affected by stroke, and that is why stroke is one of the top 5 leading causes of death in Malaysia. The issue of aging population has always been on the world's attention. In 2016, the total number of people over 60 years old was above 220 million. And as we know, elder population are the main risk group for stroke. And as Malaysia are expected to be an aging country by 2030, I think the research on this topic is becoming urgent. Stroke will cause many impairment and walking abnormality is one of it. And that will lead to the increase in number of wheelchair users. Previously, rehabilitation training of disabled lower limb was carried out mostly by physical therapists. But now, lower limb exoskeleton robot seems to be commonly used to help therapists in gait training. So let's talk about lower limb exoskeleton. Exoskeleton are a wearable electromechanical device that have been developed as orthotic device for locomotion assistance. It is also developed to improve gait independence. Although robotic-assisted gait training is becoming a standard approach for stroke rehabilitation, but its impact on chronic stroke patients is still unclear. The general objective is to determine the effectiveness of lower limb exoskeleton on gait performance among stroke survivors. While the specific objective is to measure gait endurance, speed, and balance of stroke survivors with and without using lower limb exoskeleton. So this is the methodology. For the literature search, I'm using 5 databases which are Science Direct, PubMed, Scopus, State Journal, and Web of Science. And I'm limiting the search result from 2016 to 2020. Those are the exclusion criteria that the article should not have it. If the literature meets the inclusion criteria, I will include it in my narrative review letter. I'm applying Boolean operation O and N in my keywords for this literature search. So this is the flowchart of the methodology of this study. After all, a total of 12 articles that met the inclusion criteria mentioned above was selected for the narrative review. The result. Out of 12 studies, 3 studies reported that exoskeleton gait training is as effective as conventional physiotherapy treatment alone, which is studies by Nam et al., Watanabe et al., and Chua et al. The remaining 9 studies stated that lower limb exoskeleton can give much improvement to gait performance. But out of that 9 studies, only 3 studies are presenting a control group, which means 6 studies did not compare the result of exoskeleton with conventional physiotherapy treatment alone. So the actual contribution of exoskeleton cannot be proven because of 6 studies are research without a control group. The remaining 3 studies that can really prove lower limb exoskeleton can improve gait performance better than conventional physiotherapy treatment alone are studies by Jayaraman et al., Kim et al., and Chung 2017. Now, let's talk about discussion. The major components of gait performance can be observed through gait speed, endurance, and balance. It is important to test patients' walking speed, as lower gait speed may indicate frailty in geriatric patients. Most of the studies in this review are including speed component in their research. One of the outcome measures that can be used is a 10-meter walk test. Out of the total 12 studies, 6 studies are using 10-meter walk test as the outcome measure. Most studies prove an improvement in gait speed after using lower limb exoskeleton, except studies by Xu et al., Lin et al., and Chung 2017. This indicates that stroke survivors may have high chances of gait speed improvement by using lower limb exoskeleton. Endurance is important to determine patients' tolerance towards exercise. Outcome measures that can be applied to determine endurance is 6 minutes walk test. An increase in the distance covered in this test indicates improvement in mobility endurance. Only 4 studies did not include 6-minute walk test as their outcome measures. 7 out of 12 studies shows an improvement of walking distance in 6-minute walk test after using lower limb exoskeleton. This indicates that the lower limbs exoskeleton is giving a huge impact toward the patient's endurance. Lastly, Balance is a crucial component for walking. Without an adequate level of balance, it is not possible for a patient to walk independently. Lower balance status indicates higher risk of fall. One of the outcome measures that can be applied is time up and go test, TUG. Predated fallers usually finish the test more than 13.5 seconds. Out of 12 studies, 6 studies were proving that lower limb exoskeleton can improve balance during walking. This shows that lower limb exoskeleton can improve patients' balance. Now, let's dive into conclusion. First, lower limb exoskeleton was proved to improve several gait parameters towards stroke survivors. This is because 9 studies shows improvement in gait parameters after applying exoskeleton in gait rehabilitation. Although exoskeleton proved to give good impact toward gait performance, the findings about the comparison of effectiveness between exoskeleton and conventional physiotherapy were not consistent. These robotic lower limbs exoskeleton have high potential to be successfully integrated into the stroke survivor's life, but some studies improvement are needed to prove the effectiveness more than conventional physiotherapy alone. Other than a medium of gait rehabilitation, Jayaraman et al. Suggests that mechanical lower limbs exoskeleton may be useful as a personal walking assistive tool. Okay everyone, thank you for your time.